Alright, I just want to get this out of there ahead of time. This started as a video about the new Trials Auto Rifle Auric Disabler, which I think should be uploaded by now. But I went way the fuck off script right near the start, and given my only successful video in weeks was my State of Destiny video, this seemed like a good idea to lean into. I chopped it up a bit and went back and wrote a half-assed script to hopefully refine some of my original rambling a bit. So if it gets confusing or if I'm repeating myself, that would be why. Apologies. All that being said, please enjoy my mauling over an aspect of the game that could always be worse and get left in the dirt like Gambit. Yeah, I guess we're just doing this. Alright, so like sixes are fucking unplayable right now if you're not running the meta or can really abuse the horrible connections going on right now. Since there's like 100 people in total playing PvP still, and we're doing heavy skill emphasis in the quick play equivalent, but whatever. What happened to on-kill activation being the puzzle for OP shit, like with Hawkmoon? Like, what? Instead it's 3 crits with virtually no time limit and you can miss on Graviton Spike? What are you fucking talking about? Now, I originally said no time limit here, but you see they added a 7-second timer now, so there's a fail state. Effectively no timer, though. It makes fucking sense. And that's not even the most problematic hand cannon going on right now. Spread shot hand cannons take the cake for me. Like, engagements are decided in less than half a second, and they don't require special ammo. They 2-tap to the body without any buffs at ranges well beyond the range that shotguns can 2-tap. Like, slugs obviously are the outlier there, but you understand what I'm saying. They have larger mag sizes than 120 hand cannons. The skill floor is in the toilet for how effective these are. Mid-range dueling does not exist if either party uses one. It's fucking depressing. Like, what exactly was the mentality behind these? Because they aren't seeing use in PvE at all. It feels like the weapons team was like, we need something that breaks all of the rules and makes the Crucible a nightmare. What if we made a shotgun with infinite ammo and more range than actual shotguns? That'll really convince people we don't have anybody giving a shit about PvP on the team anymore. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? There's a shotgun that I might be using in the background footage if I end up using it. It's the fucking 7th Seraph CQC. It's a lightweight, so like, of course, it's, you know, that's my mistake for using a lightweight shotgun. But it's basically a spread shot hand cannon with less range, a lower fire rate, and it requires special ammo. I can point blank one tap with it, that is very true. But that requires me to play in a much less reserved way than if I just wanted a peek shot with a hand cannon. Ability uptime is once again a fucking menace as well, and Bungie thinks that increasing it for Warlocks is the solution, like we're gonna make Powering Rift give ability energy. Sure, and we're giving the best melee that Warlocks have access to 2 charges by default. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Anyway, let's get back on track. Gambler's Dodge, right? Gambler's Dodge. This shit, oh my god, this shit pisses me off so much because it's not just a bad decision, it's a fundamental misunderstanding of what the ability is built to do and does effectively, and what the gameplay loop is on Hunter. Gambler's Dodge gets reworked, and everybody's response is either, oh, that's going to be a problem, or who asked for this? Before I get too off track here, just in case someone's watching this that doesn't have any idea what I'm talking about. Gambler's Dodge is a class ability that Hunter has access to when you use it. Originally, if you used it nearby enemies, you would get your melee back. Now, they removed the requirement to have to be near enemies, and the reasoning was that it was arbitrary and confusing. Because there was an invisible circle around the player that an enemy had to be within a certain radius of in order to refund the ability energy. So, I emphasized arbitrary and confusing here, and I went back through to do some finalizing my research, and they never said the words verbatim, arbitrary and confusing. I think it's implied that that's the reasoning based on where it says here specifically, invisible circle around the Hunter, but I did want to correct a mistake on my part before I send the video out. It's too late for me to completely edit it and restructure everything else, so I just wanted to clarify here. They never said the words arbitrary and confusing. I attributed that to them. That's my mistake. My apologies. Back to the video. How was that arbitrary and confusing? What exactly about that was hard to understand? It's like... whatever. It was received incredibly poorly by everybody on both ends of the change. Hunter players are like, that's a terrible idea. What are we doing? Gambler's Dodge isn't a gamble anymore. That's stupid. And everybody else is like, oh, so Hunters are just going to be able to get their melee back because they've got the shortest class ability cooldown in the game? And they've got really strong melees to begin with? Like, they've got a lot of really good ranged melee options? Oh, that won't be a problem. That's not a fucking mistake. Not like the PvP ecosystem was already in a good like state, but you know, let's just make it worse, I guess. But they're changing it again. They're not reverting the change that they did, because that would be the really good decision to make. Like what I believe they should do is revert the change and just make the energy gain based on the melee stat, because that's how we're doing it across the board everywhere else. But no, now it's a baseline gets halved and is now doubled when near enemies, bringing back the alleged arbitrary and confusing aspect. By the way, just in case you were curious what the fuck that reasoning was. Now, if you dodge at 100 melee, you get 2 charges of your melee back if you get a melee ability with more than 1 charge. Alright, now, let's just think, right? Let's just think about which 100 melees have 2 charges. You've got Withering Blade, which on stasis has access to Grim Harvest to supplement any melee energy losses, so that's not fucking useful. Lightweight Throwing Knife has 2 charges, but on Solar, you have Radiant Reset Fragment to refund melee energy. Put up on screen what I'm talking about here because you didn't write it down in the script, you moron. A Smoke Grenade with Omni Oculus equipped has 2 charges, but that's got a built-in refund mechanic based on the amount of targets that you make invisible. Phidias Faith on Solar, which is all Solar melees, but, like with Lightweight Knife I mentioned earlier, has Radiant Reset since it's Solar, and already gives you both charges back when you earn the energy for 1 anyway. The only use case is for Withering Blade on Prismatic, which has Transcendence to full refund all ability energy on cast. What the actual fuck are we doing here, man? If you're at all familiar with Hunter, you know how meaningless this shit is and how needlessly confusing it's going to become, if not already is. Oh, and if you're curious, the sandbox changes that they talked about in the previous post, because I'm recording this the day of Ashen Iron's launch, they had 0 impact on anything. Lightweight knives behave the exact same way, and spread shot hand cannons are still exactly as oppressive as they were before. Old Gambler's Dodge was fine. If you wanted it to scale its energy gain off of the melee stat, it'd be annoying because Hunter melee or Hunter stat investment is always carked compared to the other classes, but that's nothing new, and we'd all understand. But this is just a complete waste of fucking resources, and I don't understand what we're doing here. Your reasoning is flawed, Bungie. Anybody who plays Hunter could have told you that. I searched far and wide. Not a single soul thought that the nearby enemy's radius was confusing and arbitrary. Maybe they weren't public about their confusion with what that radius was, so maybe I have to assume that the only people with that problem were on the dev team, and I hate being that guy who thinks devs don't play. I know you guys play the game. You have to for your job. Some more than others. Like, if you're on the sandbox team, you definitely play the video game because you have to, at the very least, test your implementations. Like, but I straight up do not see another explanation for this complete and utter waste of resources. We know this is a mistake. Just revert it. Insane. This change was unnecessary from the start, and everybody told you it was going to be, and you should have walked it back before Edge of Fate. But now here we are, slamming our dick in the car door for the sake of simplifying something that didn't need it. I get wanting buildcraft to matter, and having a full melee refund on the same cooldown as Hunter Dodge with 0 investment into the melee stat would be antithetical to the spirit of that. But removing the nearby enemies aspect of the refund just puts us into this state where the optimal way to play is to toss out any number of the really strong range melees that Hunter has. Gambler's Dodge for nothing other than the refund ability energy, then throw out a second one and just watch choke points with Outbreak or Graviton Spike you're using, since nothing exists in a vacuum. Then kill somebody, since you're probably also using Backris, so you get your full dodge refunded back again. Then you get your melee back, and on and on and on and on forever, because, and for the 3rd or 4th time this fucking video, ability uptime is once again a problem. Buildcraft matters, but there are no choices to make. Why do they got rid of the new gear tag? I was going to start complaining about the featured gear tag. They are sunsetting it soon. I don't know, it's going away, so we're cutting this part of the rant. And this isn't even the only example of a seemingly complete misunderstanding of how things work from the balance team, right? Another Hunter one, believe it or not, On Your Mark, which is going through another change by the way, was reworked to give Radiant at 3 stacks, and the reasoning given was to let Solar Hunter have more access to Radiant. If you have ever taken the time to set up even the most basic of gunslinger builds, you would know that Radiant uptime is extremely strong before this change. Even in PvP, where forcing specific scenarios is harder than manipulating the average combatant pathing, Gunslinger's identity was tied to Radiant being a virtual constant. If you wanted to change On Your Mark to be less front-loaded and have more of a ramp time to full power, then I'd understand that, right? Like, if the reasoning given was On Your Mark gives all of its stacks with just one cast of your class ability, and your class ability is the shortest cooldown in the game, even with a little bit, lower investment than the other classes, so we wanted it to be a little less front-loaded and have a better reward at the end, right? I'd understand that. I wouldn't get why you give it Radiant of all things, because that's not a reward, but whatever, I would understand that reasoning. But instead, it was, yeah, we want Gunslinger to have more access to Radiant because we think it really needs it. What the fuck do you mean? This is a nothing change that nobody wanted or needed. Like, okay, I don't understand. If you're familiar with any of my other videos, you're probably noticing that I'm basically just repeating all of my previous rants spread out across my entire catalog. That's because nothing has changed, and it's only gotten worse. I said way back at the launch of Final Shape that Prismatic was something to be concerned about, and whoa boy, you'll never guess, but I was right. Holy shit, I'm so fucking smart. They toned down a bit across the board, like the ability cooldown. They did like a blanket nerf in PvP, and it wasn't enough. It was barely a drop in the fucking bucket, man, because we keep introducing buffs, perks, aspects, fragments, seasonal mods, reworked and new exotic abilities. Whatever else bullshit I'm missing because power creep is extended to the use of the English language too at this point that refund or generate ability energy. Why? I'm trying really hard to be respectful since the only way feedback ever gets acknowledged is if it comes from an established voice in the community or is sugar-coated with daisies and cum. But man, all of these completely avoidable missteps are really making it hard to not just be dismissive about anything that you see from communications. Which, that's another fucking problem, by the way. I said it on Twitter earlier today. Like I said, I'm recording this on Ash of Iron's launch. But just having a real human being verbalize why we're not getting changes that we've been asking for months would be so fucking amazing, man. Like, obviously, nobody actively tries to sabotage the game that they work on. That would be an insane decision to make. There's no fucking way you do that. Especially in an industry that relies so much on reputation because everybody knows that it grinds people to paste. So you don't shit in the bed and fuck everybody else over. And, like, you don't do that. You don't do that shit. That's a horrible idea. But, like, there are clearly limitations in place that prevent the use, like, timely updates and timely responses to problems, right? Like, I would like somebody to go on stream, not a fucking article or a blog post to convey issues or a tweet that's like, hey, we're listening, it's coming. But I want a person to go on stream, I would have loved it to happen today, but to just say, hey, we know it sucks, and we see the pain points, but we literally cannot do these easy fixes that you think we can, and here are the restrictions on why. Give us hard information. Like, yeah, we're not owed that transparency at all. Obviously, this community's fucking a nightmare, and I'm not contributing to the positivity at all, so I'm part of the problem. And most gamers won't even be able to parse what they're saying effectively. They're gonna hear, we can't do it, and they're gonna fucking go, nah, your game dev dumb, right? But just a little bit of, we wish we could, but we can't get that shit done in a timely manner. Here's what we can do on short notice instead, but we're looking to do more later, would go such a long fucking way, man. I just want some level of transparency here. It's like, everybody gives hippie shit for a lot of dumb shit, and I don't want to bring that up, but one of the things that she said as she was leaving Bungie was, have a little bit of transparency. The community goodwill that fosters is incredibly impactful, and it's really important, and for some reason we're just going, we can't say words, we can't tell you things. We're listening, and like, I get that you are listening, you have to fucking listen, but when that's all you hear, and everything that's a pain point gets kicked down the fucking road, again and again and again and again, I get where people are frustrated with it. Obviously, some people take it too far. Death threats and harassment are fucking insane. Don't do that shit. But, like, I get it, right? This isn't easy. I fucking get it. But man, is it frustrating to hear the same shit and see you slam your dick in the car door again and again when everybody told you that was a mistake. When everybody's like, hey, don't shove your hand in the blender, and you go, we think we're gonna shove our hand in the blender anyway. And obviously it fucking, like, you destroyed your limb. This analogy's bad. Stop doing it. I don't know, man. It could always be worse. But, like, even if the worst case was happening, like, and PvP's getting shut down, I'd like to be told directly rather than just a quiet fadeaway. Like, you'd think that they'd learn the lesson from what went down with Gambit and its pathetic death across 3 years of neglect, but What the fuck do I know, man? I know PvP is an afterthought to the majority of this community. I'm under no delusions that my preferred way of interacting with Destiny is not the reason that the majority of people engage, but I maintain that the Crucible is important for the health of the game. If there was no PvP modes, there'd be even less content and less of a reason to bother trying for half of the year of the game. People always bring up, yeah, when they changed this, they balanced this. They nerfed it in PvE because of the Crucible. Like, dude, that is such an old data point that isn't accurate to the current state of Destiny. They have had separate sandboxes for years. Shut the fuck up. You haven't played in years either. But, like, if there was no PvP, there'd be less content and less of a reason to even bother trying for half the gear in the game, man. Half the weapon perks become useless garbage filler, and, like, 3 frames of every weapon archetype, plus the entirety of the sidearm suite, becomes a waste of file space. So basically, fuck you, I'm right. Pay me. Dear God, man. I don't know how to end this. I don't know how to end this shit. I'm in a mood now, man. I hope some of this was coherent. I have to go back and chop it up because I brought up one thing, changed topics, went down a rabbit hole, and then I brought up the original thing, and there's no transition point there because I wrote half of it down, and editing this is gonna piss me off, but I hope some of it was coherent. I hope you understand where I'm coming from, and I hope my frustration and the way that I'm going about talking about this stuff is coming across effectively. I assume the majority of you guys watching this are like, yeah, well, imagine caring about PvP in Destiny. What a fucking loser. And the rest of you are like, PvP should be removed from the game. So, like, you know, I'm speaking in the fucking void here, but man, this shit bothers me so much because it's always had the potential. And we've always been on the cusp of good shit. And we've been in this state for a while, and I'm well aware that I'm waiting for a response I'm never gonna fucking get, and it will always not be enough because it's a lot harder to do a PvP game. It's a lot harder to maintain all that stuff. It's a lot of spinning plates in the air. I'm well fucking aware of that. But, man, there are moments where it just hits right. And those moments show that there is actual potential here, that there is something there. I'm not looking for competitive design. We don't need a fucking esports game, but just PvP is core to Destiny, and I apologize if you think otherwise, but you're wrong and in dumb. You're wrong and dumb. So, anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Tell me I'm wrong in the comments down below. Have a wonderful day. Jesus Christ, I need a drink.